Hello, everyone. Welcome to Aura's virtual town hall meeting. This is one more edition. We meet usually on Wednesdays at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and we have candid conversations about issues, problems, topics that matter to people in our communities, to our families, and to ourselves. Today, I am so pleased to be in the company of Dr. Atul Nakhasi. He is an advisor for the city of Los Angeles County in the public health department. He's also a doctor that has been in the front lines, working with communities of color since the pandemic started. So in a way, you are also not just a frontline worker, but an essential worker. So I know that right now there are a lot of questions that people have, and we want to welcome all your questions. Please send this podcast, this live stream to your friends, and let's have a really educated, rich, and respectful conversation with Dr. Nakhasi. Hello and welcome. How are you?
Hi, Aura. Wonderful to see you and to be here today. Thank you for hosting, and I'm excited to answer. There's a lot of questions. Travel season's coming. We have the holidays. We have cases in the U.S. at all-time high. There's a lot to cover. So I'm delighted to be here. Hello to everyone who's joining us, including a good from Iowa. It's good to see you, and others who will be joining us today too. Well, thanks for having me back.
Of course. It's always so exciting when you see your friends and you can add value to the conversation. So first, for those, this is the second time you join me in my live stream. At the beginning of the pandemic, I also had you, and I learned so much from your experience and just treating folks here in Los Angeles, and also from your expertise working with the county. So can you just refresh our memory, and for those and the audience that don't know who you are, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, totally. So I'm a primary care doctor in South LA, Compton Watts at Martin Luther King Outpatient Center. So I see patients in clinic, patients who have regular primary care concerns, and also COVID patients in my clinic. I also was a surge doctor in the surge hospital that Governor Newsom put up back in April and May, taking care of patients in the hospital setting who are really sick with COVID. And then finally, my third role has been as a policy advisor for the LA County Department of Health Services. The Department of Health Services here, Aura, is the second largest municipal health system in the United States of America. We have 4 hospitals, 24 clinics, 600,000 patients to take care of every year. We are the safety net hospital of all of Los Angeles and one of the largest health systems in the country. So I also advise the health system on healthcare issues and healthcare policy. So doctor in the clinic, doctor in the hospital, and the advisor.
Wow, incredible. So much. I'm so grateful that you are making the time to meet with us and to have a conversation about COVID-19. So, we just went through elections before. I feel like COVID-19 was a huge influence in the people, in the way that people voted. We see how it's been a real struggle for our economy. How people are, small businesses and just people in general, how many people have been still out of work. And we keep hearing a new wave, cases are rising. So why don't you tell us what is happening right now with COVID-19? Is it true that people are getting more sick, and why?
Yeah, that's a great question, Aura. And there's challenges right now, right? Like we're seeing more lockdowns starting to happen, partial lockdowns, mask mandates that we're starting to see. North Dakota, Iowa, Oregon went to partial lockdown. Governor Newsom, right? Our own home state, 94% of the state went back into the most restrictive tier of purple, which is shutdown of all non-essential businesses. That just happened a couple of days ago, Governor Newsom, where you and I live, right here in California. So the current situation is not looking good right now. Let me just give a context to it. The United States at its best was averaging around 35,000, 40,000 cases a day when things were at that wasn't even completely under control. We are now averaging almost 4 times that. We were at 25, 30,000 cases a day. We are now at closer to about 140,000 cases a day. We even got up to 180,000 at some point in one day. So the level of cases has just skyrocketed. That's one thing. The number of deaths now we're starting to see also pick up. The United States had 1,700 deaths in one day, just I believe it was either today or yesterday, or the latest count. That is the highest number of deaths in one day we had in the last 6 months. So cases are going up, deaths are starting to come up. We are on track. It is very sad, Aura. We are on track now to have about 300,000 dead by the end of this year. And to put that in context, Aura, that's the number of people. That's more than the number of people who died in the Korean War, Vietnam War, World War I, all combined.
Wow.
We're going to have more from COVID this year alone in the United States. So that is the situation we're in right now. This is a bigger wave than we saw in April and May. It's a bigger wave than we saw in June and July. So we really have to brace ourselves. That's where we're at right now, as of these last couple of weeks.
Why are we back on square one and perhaps even worse? Why are the cases rising? And I've been kind of talking to my followers about this topic this week, just preparing to have you in the live stream. And so people believe that it's because we have more testing, so we see more cases. Is that true? Or why are we back on square one? Why are so many people, why are the numbers, the cases of COVID-19 rising? And why are also, I mean, of course, and the deaths rising?
Yeah, great question. The number one reason things are increasing is because we're all going to be normal again. To be honest, we are all trying to do normal things again. We're trying to see friends. We're trying to see family. We're trying to go to the gym. We're trying to eat out, Aura. You know, we want to go eat out.
People want to go to the movies.
Yeah. People want to go on dates, right? People want to meet people, but they want to see their friends, right?
Yeah.
I bet your social calendar, in a normal world, our social calendars would be very filled, Aura, right?
That's true.
And so I think people, the answer to that question is we're just all trying to live normal again. But we forgot one thing. The virus hasn't gone away. So usual times call for unusual measures. We're not used to isolating. We're not used to lockdowns. We're not used to staying 6 feet away from each other or wearing our masks all the time. So part of it was there's some fatigue, right? Like I'm on the front lines. I'm fatigued. I'm burnt out. I'm tired, right? Like we all are. I think the whole world is tired. We are exhausted of COVID. We are, but COVID hasn't gone away. And I think it's kind of been an unfortunate wake-up reminder.
So basically, we're slacking. We're not behaving ourselves. It's so hard to see people and not hug them, or it's so hard to even meet people maybe in a coffee when they recognize you and not shake their hand. You know, it's such a constricted way of living right now that I can see why some folks think that this is trying to control the population because it's so constricting. So basically, we're trying to get back to a normality that is unexistent because this disease is still happening.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Aura. You hit it on the head. We are all trying to live as normal as possible in a abnormal time step. I mean, that's the end of it, right? We're all trying to get back to normal, but like the abnormality of this virus is still there. And that's why now we've seen levels increase to we've never seen in this country. You're completely right.
Yeah. Okay, so we're not behaving. We need to behave. We need to stay home. We need to
behave, Aura.
We need to behave. But Thanksgiving is just around the corner. It's in a week from now. Next week, we will all be celebrating. You know, in usual times, we will be with our friends, our families, you know, eating tons of amazing food, celebrating being together. What then should we do? What do you recommend?
Yeah, that's a great question, Aura. So there are 4 travel tips, and folks might want to take note of this because we're all going to become up to Thanksgiving, Christmas, the holidays. I know many people have travel plans. So there are 4 quick T's, travel tips of 2020. One is transportation. Think about your transportation. If you can drive. If it's a 5, 6, 7, 8 hour drive and you can drive, because when you travel with airplanes, right, you have security, you have baggage claim, you have the lines, you have in-transit on the airplane. So one is think about your transportation mode to your destination. So that's number one. If you do have to fly, Aura, look at airlines like Alaska, Delta, even Southwest for the rest of the month. They're all keeping up their middle seat. So they're following social distance protocol. So if you have to travel by flight, think about airlines that are very conducive to social distancing and have good policies. So Alaska and Southwest until the end of the month are honoring middle seat being open. That's rule number one, transportation. Two, testing. Consider getting tested about 48 hours after you land, because the last exposure you have, you need to wait about 48 hours for there to be enough detectable virus to come back positive on a test. Now, the tests aren't perfect. The test could still miss a case, especially if it's early on and you just got exposed on a flight or a baggage claim or on the Uber or Lyft. Still could miss it, but consider getting tested about 48 hours after you land to see, just as a safety measure to help any possible exposure infection. So two is testing.
Okay, I can we pause on that question because I was reading yesterday that the incubation period can be up to 14 days. But you recommended that at least 3 days, 48 hours, 3 days later to get tested. 3 days, at least the bare minimum. So you travel, like I'm going to travel to Colombia to see my family. So when I get on the other side, I should quarantine, be by myself, see if something weird is going on. And then 3 days, at least 3 days later, get tested. Is it possible that the test can miss people 3 days after, but then you can have COVID anyways?
Yeah.
That's
the challenge. There's no guarantee. So you could land in Colombia or you could land back in California and you could wait 2-3 days and get tested and it could still miss it. It could still miss it because there's not enough infection up to the level to get caught yet. So it's not perfect, and in fact, if you land and you get tested right when you land, that's too soon. You know, because the virus is just getting into your system. So if you do it in the first couple of days, you're going to miss it. Even if you do it day 3, day 4, 48 hours longer or later, you could still miss it, but you have a higher chance of catching the infection and getting it detected. So you're right. There is no perfect way. The only perfect way is to literally have no human contact for 14 days before you see that person. Because that's the incubation period of this virus is 14. That's really hard for people, right? That means you have to land in Colombia, isolate for 14 full days, and then see your loved ones. That could be quite difficult for a lot of folks to do, is just do a complete 14-day isolation period. So
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're talking to Dr. Atul Nakhasi. He's an advisor for the County of Los Angeles and Public Services, also a frontline worker, and also in the front lines working with COVID-19 cases in places like Watts here in Los Angeles. So if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. In your comments, send us questions. I see some questions coming in about vaccines, and we're going to be able to ask those soon. But I want to talk to you. Besides you traveling, you have your tips for traveling. Looking at good airlines, like you said, waiting to get tested, whatever destination. Choose to drive instead of flying. Stay home will be the best way to travel. Travel to your kitchen.
That's tip number 4, Aura, is call a timeout. I call a timeout and ask, do you really need to travel this year? Do you really need to? If rates of transmission are sky high where you live, Aura, or where your destination is, reconsider travel this year. Aura, 40% of infections are asymptomatic. You and I may not even know we have it, and we have it right now.
Right.
4 out of 10 people who have this infection won't even know they have it. So we could take it to people who are more vulnerable. Young people tend to have more asymptomatic infections or very mild, such as ourselves. So the third tip is the risk, meaning avoid high risk venues the week before. like gyms, restaurants, coffee shops. Avoid high-risk restaurants and exposures. Tame your risk. And number 4, call a timeout. Ask yourself, do you really need to travel this year? Especially if you're vulnerable, you're visiting are vulnerable. Are they
vulnerable.
65 and up? Do they have an underlying condition? You really need to think about all of that, because all it takes is one bad exposure, and you might not even know you have the infection because you're asymptomatic, but when you get there, someone else gets it and they don't do too well. So those are the 4 T's: transportation, and then testing, call timeout, and then consider taming the risk, your risk of infection. Those are the 4 T's.
Those are some really, really, really great points. We have more information about the coronavirus now because we've been having it now for almost half of the year, or maybe half of the year. We've been dealing with coronavirus. What are some of the symptoms? So we are also in cold season. We're in flu season. We're in allergy season. Now every time you walk down the street to walk your dog or anything, if you hear somebody coughing or sneezing, it's like, oh my God, it's like looking at somebody killing somebody else. So remind us, what are some of the very unique, real symptoms that you should look out for if you have COVID, so that you don't get confused with like, oh, my eyes are itchy, that might be just allergies. Oh no, it's COVID. So I see this. I see a lot of this energy around with friends where they're like, I think I got, I'm sneezing, I don't know. And then it just gets on this panic mode. So what are some of the unique, now that we have identified through the pandemic, what are some of the unique symptoms that people are displaying?
Yeah, Aura, that's a great question. And so what I'll say is, first I'll start with the flu and COVID. Let's compare them, then we can get to allergies too. Mm-hmm. The flu and COVID, Aura, how you can distinguish those in terms of symptoms? Do you know how you can?
How? No, tell me.
You can't. Oh, you cannot.
Oh, wow.
There is that's what I want to emphasize here. There is no one set of symptoms that uniquely, with 100% accuracy, distinguishes flu from COVID. There's no way. The only way to do it is with a test. The only way with 100% accuracy. So, with much better accuracy, because the flu can cause muscle aches, colds, fevers, congestion, nose, sore throat, short of breath. Also, people also get pneumonia from the flu, just like they get pneumonia from COVID. That's how both groups of people, they don't do too well. That's how both need a ventilator or breathing tube. So that's the challenge here. We're in flu season, we're in cold season, and we have COVID on top for the first time ever. We have everything coming together. And there's no way. That's why if you do have any of those concerning symptoms, fevers, chills, cough, sore throat, runny nose, congestion, any cold symptom, you should get tested just to be safe. It could be your allergies. It could be a triggering of allergies that you've had before. But to be safe, generally, I would say if there's any concern, it's not your usual allergies, you feel different in any way, it's better to get tested. And especially with concerns of getting a cold from someone else or the flu, there's no real way to distinguish those two. So
got it. So you just got to get tested. And some folks have mentioned that they lose taste and smell, and that's unique to COVID. Is that unique to COVID, or does this happen also with allergies and colds and others?
Exactly. So believe it or not, losing your taste and smell can happen with most viral infections, including the flu.
Wow.
Yeah. So even people with the flu, even people with your common cold can lose smell and taste temporarily, just like with COVID. So again, Aura, great question. The one big thing that generally distinguishes colds, flus, COVID from allergies is, you generally don't get fevers, chills, muscle aches, those types of bodily symptoms. You generally don't get those with allergies. So much so, the fevers, the chills, the body aches, that tends to be more like a virus like COVID or the flu. But in terms of COVID and flu, this bucket of infections, they can all lose your sensation of smell and your taste, and have the same set of constellation of symptoms. So you might be able to distinguish maybe your typical allergies, like your sneezing and runny eyes, and your Claritin works or your Flonase works. your Zyrtec works from the infections, but within the bucket, it's really hard to tease apart which infection is causing it, because the flu and the COVID can both cause those loss of taste and smell.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go on with some questions. A lot of people got questions about vaccines. I'm going to start here with a question from Instagram about how long do you think realistically before a vaccine makes a difference to the point that we can, I guess, that we can save lives? Maybe I can see the full question, but I'm assuming that is around before we see, I mean, I guess before we can go back to normal.
Yeah, before we get a sense of normalcy. Yeah, thank you for that question. That's a great question. Everyone wants to know, when do we get back to normal? How do we get back to normal?
I want to go back to the movies. When can I do that?
I know. Aura wants to go back to the movies, so we got to defeat COVID.
Please, everybody, stay home so we can defeat COVID, so we can all go back to the movies.
I know. Then they can start filming in the movies again too. So
exactly.
This is so I have news. If everything goes to plan, we could start feeling a lot normal by July 4th of next year. So maybe that's bad news. It's still a way, but maybe it's good news because it's actually on the horizon. Depends how you kind of look at it. But I do think we got record news these last couple of weeks on vaccines. There is a reasonable probability, reasonable chance by next most of the population in the United States is vaccinated, and we could start going back towards a normal life. Not guaranteed, and a lot of things can change, but because we got some really positive vaccine results, it gives a possibility by next summer to get closer to normal than we've ever been in this whole pandemic so far. So I think it's on the horizon. We can get into that discussion about vaccines also, but we are getting closer and closer. And I think July 4th is a reasonable target for us to reassess of whether things are getting to that normal state or not.
Oh, July 4th of 2021.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
About 6 months.
There's a lot of questions about the vaccine. I personally have questions about the vaccine because I am not, believe it or not, I'm not a vaccine person. In fact, I'm not like a very, if I my body can fight it, if I don't need to take antibiotics, I do tons of preventive medicine. I take my vitamins, I eat vegetables, I'm more of in that path. I'm the homeopathic person. So somebody's asking here if somebody that works as actually in Cedars-Sinai in the hospital, and they're going to mandate all workers. I mean, you guys are going to be probably the first people that are going to get, COVID vaccinated. Will they work like I'm assuming work population is like everyday population, in effect, be guinea pigs? Can you ask how vaccines are tested? This especially touches me because as someone that I understand that if I want to go back to travel to Colombia, if I want to go to the movies, if I want to go see friends at the cafe, if I want to, go to the gym, we're going to have a handle of a vaccine. But it feels to me that we don't have enough record data on how that is going to affect our bodies. So what's your take on this part of the guinea pig part on the vaccine?
Yeah, Ara, that's a great question. There's a lot of concern about how safe this vaccine will be, how effective it will be. Good to see everyone who's joining the Instagram live here and all the questions. Keep them coming. I love the questions. Let's answer every question that exists.
Keep the questions coming, you all. Keep the questions coming.
And I'm happy to tackle all of them. So this is the number one question. How effective is this vaccine? Can we trust it? And will it work? And should we take it? So let me elucidate that point. Let me break it down.
Yeah.
The FDA are the department in the federal government, right, oversees and regulates vaccines in the United States of America. They've made very clear, Aura, that any vaccine candidate is going to need 2 full months of safety data on at least half of the trial participants, half of the people who get the vaccine, before they can at all be approved. You at least will need a full 60 days after you've gotten the vaccine to watch for any serious side effects. We just got data out of Pfizer. Came out, it actually was finalized, I think, in the last 48 hours here. The trial was, they took 40,000 people, 40,000 people, and out of those 40,000, approximately 170 got infected with COVID. The number got infected who got a saltwater shot, placebo shot, was 162. The number of people out of the 170 who got COVID, who got the vaccine, was only 8 people got infected when they got the vaccine.
Oh, wow.
So out of the 170, you had 40,000 people who got placebo or vaccine. They either got saltwater or they got the real vaccine. And of those who ended up getting infected, almost all of them were in the saltwater group. Almost all of them, 162 out of 170. Only 8 of them that got the vaccine ended up with an infection. That's a 95% effectiveness. 95%.
Somebody asked about, remind me, I know I see everybody's question coming in. If you can use the feature of asking your questions here on Instagram so we don't lose your questions, because somebody was asking exactly that question about why just 95. Oh, here, why is the new gene therapy vaccine effective at 95% and above?
Yeah,
why?
Because of that, because the 162 that got infected were all in the saltwater group. Only 8 that got infected got the people who got the vaccine. Only 8 of them were infected. That's the difference. The difference between 8 and 162 infections is a 95% decrease. 95% decrease if you got the actual vaccine. So that's how they determine the effectiveness. They looked at who got infected with saltwater group, who got infected with the actual vaccine, and it was way less, 95% less in the group that actually got the real vaccine and not the saltwater. So they got saltwater injections, injections, right? So that's the difference. That's how we got to 95% effective, which, Aura, the flu shot, you know how effective typically? Your regular flu shot?
How much? I don't know.
50%.
Oh, wow. Yeah, like I said, doctor, I mean, I'm not suggesting this to anyone, but I'm not the person that runs to take the flu shot personally myself. So I just work really hard to get my system really strong and, wash my hands. That's always been kind of something I do. Drink my vitamin C, D, zinc, which I think there's a whole other conversation about preventive medicine and how we don't, I hear a lot about vaccination, but I don't hear enough about, hey, folks, make sure that your immune system is strong. So whatever comes, you're like ready to fight it, or like you're ready for it. But but that's a whole other story. I didn't know that 50% of the vaccination for the flu was only effective. Wow, that is something.
So that tells you the flu shot, 50% of candidates from Moderna and Pfizer, 2 leading vaccine candidates, are 95% effective. This shocked me. I did not expect this. I'm in the front lines. I'm looking at this research every day. I was even surprised it was this effective. So that's what gives me hope, Aura, that we could get back to normal. Pfizer says they will have approximately 50 million doses by Christmas, by the end of the year. But the Pfizer shot is 2 shots, one now and one in 30 days.
Interesting.
Approximately. So everyone, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge in that way. Everyone has to get the shot, then you have to 30 days later come back and get the shot. If you do it that way, it's generally been rather very effective from the data we've seen so far. But finally, your important point: how are we making sure trust the data and trust the process? So this data now is being submitted to the FDA through an emergency use authorization. That's an expedited way to look at the data because it's a grave crisis. And so how do we know that's going to go right? How do we know we can trust that? So this is the process. The data now has been finalized from Pfizer. They're the only one. They're the only company. There are 200 companies trying to get a vaccine.
What about Johnson and Johnson? I saw somebody that said, I just signed up for a Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Yeah. Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, Moderna are they're in the phase 3. They're in the last stage, but only Pfizer finished the last stage.
Got it.
So that's the difference. So lots of these companies are in the last stage, but only Pfizer crossed the finish line so far. So Pfizer's data is now going to the FDA. The FDA has an independent review committee. These are not people hired by the FDA. There are scientists like medical doctors and scientists and infection doctors
Mm-hmm.
at UCLA, at Harvard, at Johns Hopkins, at Stanford, at academic medical centers who review the data independently, apparently, and there's even opportunities for public comment and live streaming of their discussions. So it's done in a very open, transparent way is how they're going to go about it to make sure it's trustworthy and it's not influenced by politics. That's the number one important thing here. It cannot be influenced. We cannot jeopardize the integrity of science for politics. So it's going to go through this very independent, transparent way, and then that independent committee is going to make a recommendation to the FDA. And then the FDA will review the data as well within its own agency and then make a final recommendation based on the independent committee and the FDA's review of that recommendation. And then we'll know if it gets through that, then they'll authorize it, and then it can be a vaccine that everyone gets. And so and get to market. So that's the process from the data, the research data showing it's 95% effective to the regulatory process it now has to go through. We anticipate potentially having these first injections and vaccines by the end of the year here. It's going to be very, very limited though, because only about 50 million doses covers only 25 million people. So it's it won't really be till the spring and summer that most people have it available.
Yeah. I want to talk to you after this question. I want to talk to you about who gets the vaccine. But first, I want to talk about side effects, which is something very important to me. I was actually talking to my roommate about who, like, she was like, I'm getting the vaccine. And I was like, I'm not getting the vaccine, your take on how responsible that is for my part, not thinking about getting the vaccine. But a question here, do all COVID vaccine manufacturers have the same side effects? And what could they be? Do we know now what could side effects potentially be from the vaccines that are being developed?
Yeah, that's a great question, Aura. And Aura, I'm going to give you an appointment in the new year, and I'll give you the vaccine.
Challenge, guys, challenge.
Challenge accepted. Okay, we're going to
wow. Caught in camera.
I gotta protect you. How are you gonna host future guests if you right? I gotta look out for you.
True. So I appreciate that.
You got an appointment with Dr. Nakhasi in the new year, okay?
I appreciate that. For sure. So once I get this vaccine, what are my side effects? What should I expect?
That's a great question. So good news. The vaccine data, all from Pfizer, this is one company, showed no serious side effects. No serious side effects on the 40,000 people in the trial when they looked at 20,000 of them, half of them, no serious side effects. The side effects that did happen though, the common ones are muscle aches. You can get muscle aches on the site injection. You can get a little bit of a fever for a few days as your immune system revs up and reacts to so you can get a bit of a fever. You can get fatigue. About 4% of people in the Pfizer trial said they had fatigue, tiredness, or fatigue, right? So those are the most common things: muscle aches, potential fever, fatigue. Those are the common things. There were no serious side effects that were jeopardized anyone's health. Those are really good, but there could be some mild side effects. Those are the same types of side effects you can get with a flu shot, for example. So overall, we are happy with the side effect profile of the vaccine. We have to wait, though. We have to still wait and see what the independent review committee says. We don't know that yet. All the data we have is just from Pfizer alone. It still has to go through the independent review, so we know for sure.
Okay, so that's some of the things that we can expect. Doesn't sound very warm to me, but okay, I guess we can deal with that.
Yeah,
some
you
people
might have a few days of muscle aches, Aura.
Some people, I'm not missing this question, which is, will pregnant women, breastfeeding women be able to get the vaccine?
Yeah,
our
that's
moms
a great
to be.
question.
Our moms to be, yeah.
That's a great question. Initially, research trials, because when you're pregnant, it's two people, right? It's two people compared to one, right? You have a growing embryo, growing fetus that needs to be protected. So generally, the first vaccine trials, they generally do not try to enroll children, and they generally don't try to enroll pregnant women because we want to make sure those populations are extra safe, extra
Of course.
safe, right? So that will be a good question. The plan eventually will be to be able to get it to pregnant individuals and breastfeeding mothers as well. For example, the flu shot is one we give to pregnant women all the time, breastfeeding women. So I anticipate eventually there'll be where
I think we lost Dr. Nakhasi on Instagram for a little bit.
Yeah, I think that so it might take a little bit of time for us to get to the pregnant and breastfeeding women. But I anticipate that eventually it will also be cleared for those populations, just like the flu shot has been.
Got it.
But that might be a group that's approved a little later, just because we want to take extra precaution.
Extra safe. So, all right. So, folks in the 40 plus club, get your hands up because your question. Question is for you. What are the side effects for people 40 and over? Like older, I guess. Are we older now? Damn. Okay. Well, I guess. Like, what are the effects for us on the more adult side of things?
We're not in that club. We're not in that club yet.
We're not in that club. We're not in that club.
In LA, you're young forever. In LA, you're young forever.
Thank God. Okay. But for folks that are 40 and over and up, are there different side effects for them?
Same side effects. In fact, Aura, I have good news. The Pfizer data that looked at 40,000 people, half of the people in that trial were 50 years old and older. Half. Out of the 40,000, 20,000 were older folks, 50 and up. Number one. And number two, Aura, in that trial, 30% of people in the United States in the 40,000 participants of the Pfizer trial were from communities of color. We're from racial and ethnic minority groups in the United States. That was a big, important point of the trial, is it has to work for everyone. It has to work for everyone and all people, including pregnant and breastfeeding mothers, which will be part of the group that eventually gets included also. Exactly. So the important point is 13,000 people out of the 40,000 were from communities of color, to make sure it works for everyone, no matter what you look like, who you are, where you're from, or how old you even are, because there were older people, there were minorities, people, communities of color, there were younger people, there were healthier people, there were people with underlying conditions. We had everything was represented. That was really, really important, is we represented everyone and anyone to make sure we could trust the vaccine works for everyone in this country.
And Stacy Trinidad is asking exactly that question. What was the sample study composed of, and what percentage were children, adults, seniors, people of color versus, other folks?
So 30% were from communities of color, individuals of color. 50% were older people 50 years of age and older. These trials did not have children. They did not have pregnant individuals, because those are the extra safe groups. So that is yet to be determined. Most people anticipate it will be safe for those groups, but when you start trials, you generally try to take extra precaution of those groups. So these trials did not have children. They didn't have those 18 and under generally, and they also didn't have pregnant individuals. So those are groups we still have to learn more about, but I anticipate that it will also end up being safe in those groups. But we have more to learn yet on that.
Awesome. Why are gene therapeutic drugs more effective than past vaccines, you think, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are unique. We've never had anything like them. I'll tell you why. Very, very unique, fascinating story. The Pfizer vaccine, you know how it works? This is what it does. It takes what's called mRNA, messenger RNA. That's like a genetic code. It's a genetic material that codes for a protein. So when I get the injection, the COVID vaccine injection, when we get it in our clinic, it takes some genetic material that is like what's in the real virus, and it puts that genetic material in. My body recognizes that genetic material and then translates it into the protein. That protein is the same protein the virus has. It's on the surface of the virus that it uses to infect human cells. But now my body makes that protein, And when my body makes that protein, my immune system recognizes it and revs up with antibodies to fight out and protect me when the real protein and the real virus come into my body. And so that's how it works. It takes genetic material, puts it in, my body translates the genetic material to proteins that the virus has. And then my body recognizes those proteins as foreign. It's like the fingerprint of the virus. It's like the fingerprint of the virus my body recognizes and then revs up my immune system and antibodies. So I'm fully protected. Then when the real virus comes, I'm already good to go. So these are very unique. Yeah.
So it sounds to me like it's trying to boost up some sort of like immunity, your body to be able to fight it. So when it comes, your body is not so it's not something so foreign, but it has everything that it needs to fight it back. Maybe sounds good.
I'm convincing you.
Sounds like preventive medicine to me.
Yeah, I'm getting you on board. I'm getting you on board. Let me give one more quick example, Aura. You're getting it right. You're completely right. Let me give one more example. Think about when you have a home, when you have your house. You want to protect your house, right? You know, if you have an apartment, you have a house, you have a place you live. You want to protect your house,
of course,
right? So what do you do with your house? You put a security system, right? You put it. Let's say in your area, there have been recent riots in the community. Let's say in your neighborhood, you put a security system. Then the security system is only so good. Now imagine that security system if you could give it a heads up and you had the fingerprints of the robbers. Imagine that. Imagine you could install the fingerprints. You could put the fingerprints of the robbers into your security system. Now, when the robber comes, the security system knows
exactly who's coming in.
Who's coming in and raises the flag, raises the alarms.
Interesting.
That's how a vaccine works. It gives the fingerprint to our security system.
That is fascinating.
And it stomps out the robber. It stomps out the virus. It stomps out COVID. It does the same thing. We have a security system. It's called the immune system. We have fingerprints of the virus. It's called a vaccine. And it revs up our security system and it beats the virus. And that's how it works.
Wow, that's incredible. Like that I never saw it that way. Thank you so much for explaining that. We're talking to Dr. Nakhasi. He is an advisor for the County of Los Angeles Public Health Department. He's also a doctor that has been in the front lines working with COVID-19 patients in Watts and in other places here in Los Angeles since day one. We're talking to him about the vaccines right now. Someone is asking if you know that the cases that are rising are from people that already had COVID. So some people, at some point we believe that if you got COVID, you will never get it again. It was one of those things that like, you got COVID, you're kind of like done deal now. Is it true that you can get it again? And if maybe these rising cases are people that are getting it all over again?
Yeah, great question, Aura. That was one of our biggest questions is, can you get it again? You're very welcome, participants. I'm seeing some thumbs up and thank yous and we're happy. This is really the goal, Aura, of like helping people understand what's going on and why it's
absolutely
and empowering them with knowledge. And so, to your question, can you get it again? Yes, you can get COVID twice. That has been documented. There was a young man who lived in Hong Kong, and he had COVID once, and then in August he flew back. So he got it once in the spring of this year, and then he flew back from Europe back to Hong Kong. And they screened him in Hong Kong, and he turned positive months later again. Now, they tested.
Friend, you need to stay home, friend. Whoever that person is, you need to stay home.
yeah. He shouldn't probably have been traveling from Europe to Hong Kong. He probably, but the individual did. They tested the material from back then and now in August, and they were different. So it was a different.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it is mutating a little bit, right? So they proved it was a different strain. He got one in the spring. He got one later in August. The good news is, though, Aura, that is very rare. We have realized that once you get it once, you generally do have some protective immunity for several months of time for most people. So the case where you get it twice is rare. Most people will get some protection. But it's temporary. So even with the vaccine, Aura, we might have to get it every 1 year, every 2 years, every 3 years, every 5
Good
years.
question.
We don't know. We don't know yet. And so even when you get your natural immunity lasts 6 months, it might only last 9 months. With SARS, which is the cousin of COVID, it lasted 2 years. It lasted 2 years. In this case, we don't know. Is it 6 months I'm protected? Am I 9 months? Is it 1 year? We have to find that out. Even with the vaccine, we don't know how long. But the good thing is generally, it's rare to get it right away again. It has happened in a few people, but generally you're protected temporarily.
Wow, incredible information. Thank you so much for sharing. So do you think that after we get a handle of the vaccine, is this gonna become an annual thing, kind of like the flu? So this question from Jessica again, she's asking, are we gonna be in the future? Is this gonna be like the flu shot?
Yeah, I think it is, Aura. And so I think what's going to happen is everyone is going to get the flu shot generally, and maybe the COVID shots every 2 years, or maybe it's every 5 years. We don't know that yet. But just like we get the flu shot every year, most scientists right now think that you're going to have to come back every so long. We don't know how long, every so long to get your COVID shot. And it'll just be part of your regular doctor's visit. When you go into your doctor for your flu shot, you'll go in for your COVID shot. That's probably what we're looking at down the road, years from now. It'll be part of your regular primary care visit. When you go in, you get your shots, and that's 1 year shots. And that's probably what we're gonna see down the road.
Amazing. So there's a question here. I'm not quite understanding what the question is, but it talks about Section 13 of most vaccines in certain state. They are not tested for carcinogenic potential, mutagenic potential, nor impairment of fertility. Oh boy, is this where we're headed with this vaccine?
Yeah, great questions. So, with all these vaccines, so the FDA has said they're going to watch for safety data 2 years, 2+ years from now. So is the manufacturer Pfizer. So we're going to really look at data over the next few years, safety data. We don't have any evidence to suggest it has carcinogenic potential. That means causing cancer. We don't have any evidence to suggest it decreases fertility or changes your fertility. The vaccine. But the thing is, all vaccines, there's a reporting. So if people get serious side effects, they get, they develop, right? Like, 1 out of 8 women develops breast cancer in the United States lifetime. About one out of 8, 12%. So people are gonna get, people get cancer, people get sick, people get lung disease, heart disease, kidney disease. But what they're going to do is, if you get conditions, you can report it. And they're going to say, is there extra conditions at extra risk for people who got a vaccine? Is there a reason people with the vaccine are getting more health problems, more conditions, more side effects than the regular population? Because the regular population will have some fertility challenges. The regular population will get lung cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, Alzheimer's, right? All the conditions everyone gets as they age. And as we all grow old, we all, succumb to a condition at the end of the day, even myself.
Absolutely.
So they'll compare what is happening in the regular population and what's happening in the vaccine population. And is there a difference? And that's one way they'll look at, are extra bad things happening. We don't have evidence to suggest there's anything serious happening extra with the vaccine as of now, from the Pfizer data that's been shown to us.
Of course, because we don't have a lot. This is why, and this is why some people have apprehension about being the first people to get the vaccine, because they want to wait to get a little more data to see how it reacts in them. So I can see how, I can see how that's tricky, for some folks when they're making the choice to, do I get the vaccine now? And I guess I see questions, guys. Thank you for your questions. Keep them coming. You can use if you're on Instagram, you can use the question button next to the comments so that we don't lose your questions. And if you are on Facebook and on Instagram, I'm sorry, on Facebook or on YouTube, you can just ask on the comments. I will bring your questions in. My question to you is, who's going to get this vaccine? Yeah. So we're going to have it probably ready by the end of the next month, basically, or January. We know that first responders are going to get the first round. Who's going to be next?
That's a good question. And maybe it would be interesting to poll the audience, Aura. We have, maybe I'd be just curious, either if there's a poll or if people, is there a way to do a poll during
Yeah, we can just ask, and we ask people to post it in the comments. What would the question be?
Yeah, well, I was just curious, like who says they may get the vaccine and who says they're going to wait?
There you go. Perfect. If you're watching this live stream right now, we're speaking to Dr. Nakhasi, and he is an advisor on public health in COVID-19 matters and matters related to COVID-19 for the County of Los Angeles. So would you get the vaccine, and if it becomes available comes December or January? So post it on the comments, say, yes, I want the vaccine. Hell no, I'm not doing it. I'm like put on the spot here on live.
Thumbs up if you're down for that.
On live,
thumbs down if you want to wait. If you want more and need more information. I think either way, we want to help.
I was one of those vaccine haters, so I'm not going to display. But please post your answer. Would you do it or would you not? Let us know what you think. But as far as now, and with the amount of vaccines that are going to be available, who are going to get them?
Yeah, that's a good question. And Aura, we went from you were thumbs down initially. We'll have you thumbs up. I'm kidding.
if you want to get the vaccine, put your hands up. If you don't want to get the vaccine, let us know. Maybe not for me right now.
So I think I'm with people. I think this is going to be vetted very rigorously, very meticulously. But Aura, I have the same concerns everyone does here. The average, the average amount of time it takes to get a vaccine approved normally.
No, how long? But I mean, no. Tell me before I go. Tell me.
It takes 8 years. It takes 8 years. So I understand when people say this is going very quick. When people say, do we have enough data? Do we know if it's truly safe enough? I understand that because in a normal situation, normal circumstance, it takes 8 years.
A decade.
It takes 8 years, and it takes 7 clinical trials to get on average for FDA to approve something. So I understand. I think that's why there is going to be some uncertainty. There is some uncertainty about, long term. We're not going to have all the long term year after year after year data, but the FDA and its independent advisory committee data they're requesting is going to be very, very rigorous. But you're right, nothing is 100% certain. But they've set certain thresholds of safety. They've certain thresholds of making sure it works, and they've made sure there's an independent review committee. And the thing is, Aura, the cost of not getting the vaccine, you know what it is?
Is we can go to Colombia, we cannot watch movies, we cannot hug our friends. The economy is in pieces. There is so much at stake. I totally get it. And I really want to send all of my respects to all of these scientists that have been, and all of these companies that, yes, they're making money, and yes, they have a self-interest in it. But I mean, we're talking about saving millions of people's lives, and they have been working around the clock to bring some sort of solution to this incredible challenge that we're having right now with COVID-19.
Exactly. And that's the other part of the pictures. Yes, we might not know all years, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 years of safety data, but Aura, we know the costs. And the costs are 1,000 dead Americans every day. That's someone's grandma, someone's grandpa, someone's sister, someone's brother, someone's uncle, someone. 1,000 dead every day. For every day someone's not vaccinated, 1,000 people die. That's the difference. So yes, there are uncertain risks of not getting it, but there are certain risks of not getting it. And we know those risks because we're reaching 300,000 dead in this country in the next 30 days. So that's how we have to think about it, is that there are things we don't know, but not only that, our communities of color are disproportionately impacted.
Yeah,
individuals
absolutely.
of color are 4 times more likely to get hospitalized, 2 to 3 times more likely to die. It's my patients, it's my Latino and Black patients in South LA that are most vulnerable and most impacted by the pandemic. Those are the people who need the vaccine to live, to give themselves a shot to live and make it next year. So
absolutely.
So it's something to really, really think about here. Yes, there might be some hesitancy, but the costs of not acting are so grave.
Right. And some people are asking, and I know we're in the top of the hour, and Instagram is gonna kick me out. Again, I keep getting this question about when pregnant women and children can get the vaccine, and also, will people with health risks take the vaccine? I mean, I'm assuming that there will be probably. You tell me, like, so people with already conditions that are more prone, if they get COVID, it will be more challenging for them to survive. Can they also get the vaccine? Do we know that yet?
Yeah, most people with underlying conditions will be just fine with the vaccine. There might be certain conditions, and that should be a good conversation to have with your doctor. There might be certain conditions, depending on what they are, that you'd want to have that conversation with your doctor as well. But most conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, kidney disease,
asthma,
asthma, most of those conditions will be in terms of being compatible with the vaccine. So that's the good news, is that most people are going to be fine, even with the most common conditions. There might be some certain immunocompromising conditions that you'll want to talk to your doctor to make sure the vaccine's right for you, for a certain individual. Yeah.
Awesome. Amazing. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much. I've seen that people are really engaged, and I have been really taking notes. I have one last question here, which is that people who previously had COVID, should they get also the vaccine?
That's a great question, Munoz, Juanito. Thank you for asking that. Great question. So, yes, the answer is yes. The reason is this: if you've had COVID before, you do have some immunity. You do have some. It could be 90 days, it could be 180 days, but it's not forever. From what we know right now, it's not a forever immunity that lasts 60 years. So the vaccine will help ensure you have enough of immunity, enough you don't get COVID again, or get it again and pass it to your loved one. So even if you've had COVID previously, there will be final recommendations that come out, but most of those individuals should still qualify and get the vaccine, because we know the vaccine will get you enough of that protection that your own body's immunity might not give up.
Awesome. Okay. And then, do we know when pregnant women and kids are going to have the vaccine?
This is a common question.
I know. I feel like people are worried about this. Yeah. So.
Yeah, you're gonna have. We're gonna have to come back just for a vaccine episode.
Yeah, I feel like we do. I feel like I need to get you back here maybe at the end of December to talk about where we're at with the vaccine. Is this going to turn into like the Hunger Games, where we're all going to fight for this vaccine to survive?
So that is one of the questions. The vaccine initially will be rolled out in phases. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. There are going to be phases of the vaccine. The first phase, like you said, will be healthcare workers and vulnerable individuals, people 65 and up with underlying conditions. The second phase are going to be critical populations, communities of color, individuals who are at higher risk, like in group homes or homeless individuals, incarcerated individuals, people at higher risk who've not done well in this pandemic. So the state of California has a health equity measure.
Amazing.
In its 84-page vaccine draft rule, I've read all 84 pages. I read it actually 2 days ago. All those 84 pages, there is a health equity lens to who gets the vaccine first, and it goes to people who are most disproportionately affected. So the state has made it a priority to make sure our communities who have suffered the most with this pandemic are near the top of the line to get this vaccine to be protected, because they have the most to lose. So that is really important. I'm proud that the state of California has built in a health measure, but you're right. The general population, if you're younger, healthier individuals, it might not be till phase 3 that you end up getting the vaccine. And so it'll be prioritized based on the healthcare workers to keep them alive and safe on the front lines, and people in these critical populations that I mentioned will really be near the beginning of the line. And so we're hopeful that happens toward the end of this year and early into the winter and spring of 2021.
Amazing. So I see a comment here about plasma. and people that have got sick donating plasma, or maybe encouraging them to donate their plasma. So for other people that need it, that they can utilize it for, to save their lives or for their health. So is there a big campaign, or when you get COVID tested positive, is this a requirement, or like the public health department ask you, we need your plasma, can you give it, or how does this work? Because someone is saying this should be a major public health campaign push to help people until we get the vaccine available for everybody.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That is a great idea. Plasma convalescent has promising data that it helps people recover quicker, and also some preliminary data it might help with mortality, like saving people's lives. Mm-hmm. So I agree. I think that's a great idea. Who had suggested that comment? We should raise more awareness. If you've had COVID before, folks, everyone out there, if you've had COVID before, you should look into donating your plasma to save someone else's life. It's kind of like when someone donates an organ, you save someone else's life when you're an organ donor. You can save someone else's life from COVID by donating your plasma. So I completely agree. The best way off is probably to do a Google search, because you have to find a research institution usually.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not. Area. Yeah, it's not like you can walk to any hospital and say, "Here's my plasma. I had COVID."
Yeah. I wish it was that easy, but you generally have to find a very specific area that's getting donors with convalescent plasma. But it's a great idea, and it's a great way to contribute in public service. It's an act of public service to help your fellow individuals in your community.
Absolutely. Dr. Nakhasi, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been incredible.
You are very welcome, Aura. We always have a great conversation. I love coming here and having a great conversation. This is not easy. And we don't have a silver bullet, and everything has a good side and everything has a bad side, whether vaccines, there's challenges that haven't been perfect yet. But we're getting there. We got to get through this winter, and I'm happy to touch base again, and hopefully we get you to the movie theater.
Absolutely, and hopefully I get to try this vaccine when it becomes available.
Yeah, I'll be calling you.
That's for sure, and I'm definitely gonna circle back with you sometime at the end of December or January, so you can tell us more about the developments of this vaccine. So thank you so much for joining us today. Keep up the good work. Stay safe. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving next week. And, it's just so inspiring. And I'm just so proud to know you, because I know that you deeply care about our communities and to make sure that we're safe. And you have been fighting the good fight and making sure that we also represent it and that we get the things that we need.
Yeah. Thank you, Aura. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk very soon.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, friends. So that was Dr. Nakhasi with questions about COVID. If you like what you saw, please go to the link in my bio and send me your information so I can add you to my newsletter. Also, when this stream becomes available, feel free to share it on your profile, share it with your friends on your stories, also with the people that you love, so that they can also learn about what's going on with the vaccine and the latest on COVID-19. I designed these conversations for us to have an interaction and to learn more and to create a dialogue, a space for us to learn more about these issues that are so important. So I see you all next week. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving and stay safe. Thank you. Bye.